I am here with Andrew Rizzitello of the Grand Lodge of New Jersey, Olive Branch 16, past master of Freemasonry. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, sir. How are you? Thank you for finding me.
Man, I was on TikTok and you had commented on the video I recently did. And, let me just start off. What inspired you to join Freemasonry and why did you choose Olive Branch Lodge number 16 specifically?
Okay, so the normal elevator push that I do for anyone that's interested in joining the fraternity is depending on where you are in the United States, there could be a lodge that's 5 minutes away. There could be a lodge that's a half hour away. Go to the one where you feel the most comfortable. Go to the one that you get the best vibes from, the best, return on investment kind of thing. And Olive Branch was that for me. And to be completely honest with you, why I joined the fraternity, because I was at a point in my life where the friend group that I had, going up through high school, going through college, everything like that, it started to sour. We started to go our separate ways. I'm an elder millennial, so all of us started having kids, families, things like that. And we just started to separate. And I was looking for, essentially more friends, to put it in a easier lexicon. Um, so I've always heard about Freemasonry. You always hear about that stuff over in the internet and all the conspiracy theories and whatnot. So I'm like, you know what? I'm one of those guys that I want to do my own, like, see what the hell this is really about. So I just reached out honestly on Facebook. I put up a post. I'm like, does anybody know a Freemason? And then I had somebody reach out to me and said, yeah, there's a lodge, 20 minutes from you. Why don't you go check it out? And this is back in 2015.
Wow. Yeah, that's really cool. Can you describe the history or unique traditions of Olive Branch Lodge
Oh yeah.
number
My
16?
lodge, Olive Branch Lodge 16, sits on where the first shots of the Battle of Monmouth were fired.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah.
so yeah, from the Revolutionary War. The joke I always make, because I'm the guy that gives the tour, typically, if you were to come to my lodge, the joke I always make is that the trees outside, I bet you if you cut them down, you'll find musket balls. Where our building is situated is where the British were encamped, and they fired across the street to where the high school is on the rebels, essentially. If you're a bit of a spiritual person, we swear we have ghosts. Uh, um, Olive Branch has existed since 1849. We just celebrated our 175th year last October.
Wow, that's incredible. And everybody knows, Freemasonry has such a rich tradition and history. And I think of, people like George Washington, who were Freemasons. And I think that's really cool because I'm a history major. And
Nice.
I think, history is just so important. What does being a Freemason mean to you personally, and how has it changed your life?
I feel it has definitely made me a better man in the respect of you are forced to deal with perspectives in a proper way as opposed to like, internet connection where I can just talk crap about you. You're not going to see my face. Like learning proper debate, learning how to accept someone else's difference of opinion and things like that, and not walking away from it in a negative way. Because Freemasons come from every walk of life. I'm a garbage man, in my normal day to day. We've got lawyers, we've got grocery workers, and everything else, and everybody comes together because we're all um, in this mindset of trying to make ourselves better. So we're going to give each other ideas that either conflict or just to educate each other. Um, and that's pretty much what Freemasonry started out as. It was like a philosophy club in a way, back in the 1700s. It was a product of the Enlightenment era.
Yeah, it's
Um,
really
Go ahead.
cool. I think that you see so many videos, specifically on TikTok, where people are talking crazy about Freemasons, that
Oh
they're
yeah.
worshiping the devil.
Oh yeah.
What are some of the common misconceptions about Freemasonry that you like to address?
I mean, so that one you just brought up, the whole devil worshiping thing, is if you go to my TikTok page, I have one video that I've reused more than 15 times, and I've just stacked the comments on top of each other because that whole idea of devil worship comes from something known as the Taxil hoax,
Right.
which you probably talked about with brother JPG. That was a false book written in the 1890s by a gentleman who went by the name of Leo Taxil. That was his pen name. His real name is a very French name that I'm going to butcher if I try to say it. Where he made up all of that because he wanted to get back at the Catholic Church. He also, before he wrote that book, he also wrote books talking about how the Pope was a degenerate, how the Pope had mistresses, um, and things like that. But just like any other good writer, he wanted money. So he saw that there was already a feud between the Catholic Church and Freemasonry. So he's like, I'm going to cash in on this. And it just spiraled from there. We also get lumped in because of one of his co-authors named Abel Claron de la Rive with anti-Semitism.
Right.
And that is where specifically that whole Albert Pike quote, which you've probably seen the meme of like the 33rds worshipped Lucifer. He
Yeah.
made that up 100%. It's not true. I can tell you, as a 32nd degree Mason, the 32nd degree is the exact opposite of that, of any type of negative stereotype involving Satanism or any type of, thing like that.
Yeah, it's wild, like, because you just see so many outlandish videos, and you guys are like regularly accused of like gang stalking
Oh,
people, and
that's
some
a
of
new
the
one to me, honestly. When I came on TikTok, the whole gang, I'm like, really? Like, I don't even know who you are.
yeah, it's so funny. What was your perception of Freemasonry before joining, and how has it changed since becoming a member?
My perception at the get-go, I kind of came from that whole Dan Brown, kind of conspiratorial side, of like there was a lot of influence that we could have. That's obviously changed. I mean, as much as we, like I said, we have members from all over, we don't flaunt what we do outside of lodge, and we certainly don't give each other breaks. In fact, so there is a position within New Jersey Freemasonry, and for the most part, the rest of the United States, called a district deputy grand master. Think of it as a district manager. Okay. The one that when I first joined was literally a police officer. He was the chief of police in the town over. And he said to each one of us, if I catch you on the road doing anything illegal, I'm going to come down harder on you because you are my brother Mason than I would to Joe Schmo over there who did the exact same thing. So there is that idea of accountability, and that's definitely, again, like I said, besides the friendship and the fraternity and the betterment of myself, the accountability is another thing that is very much reinforced.
Wow. That's good to hear, because I feel like, that makes people strive to be better. And I know, like, part of like masonry is like, making good men better men. And like, I think like, it's good to hear that, because I think that you don't want any people in like an organization, like, feeling like, that they're going to get into the organization because they're going to be taking advantage of like,
Oh, we definitely get them. Unfortunately, we definitely get those types. We like to say they're mercenary motives, because there are absolutely people out there that think that they're going to join and suddenly become rich and famous, and that's not what this is about, bro. Like, if anything, it makes you poor because you got to pay dues and everything else.
Right,
um
right.
it can you become noticeable within the niche that is Freemasonry? Absolutely. There are tons of podcasts and brothers from across the world that are famous within Freemasonry and are constantly contacted by various jurisdictions to come and give talks. One of the books that I recommend everyone read, Freemasonry for Dummies, that author, Brother Christopher Hodap,
Oh yeah.
obviously is going to be, tapped on the shoulder multiple times to come and give talks on things. But outside of Freemasonry, nobody knows who you are. And it's not something that you want to walk around flaunting like, oh, I'm this, that, and the other thing. Yeah, but you're this, that, and the other thing in this little group right here, not everywhere else.
What is the process like for someone interested in joining your lodge?
Well, overall in America, we have this beautiful thing that we came up with about 4 to 5 years ago called beafreemason.org. And it's literally a filter. Now, you're West Coast, you're California.
Yeah,
Okay,
Los
so
Angeles.
you're easy to do. You just look up the Grand Lodge of California or the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of California, and that will filter you down into a lodge that's or lodges that are closer to your area and get you in touch with the secretary. If you're anywhere else, you could use beafreemason.org, and that does the exact same thing just on a broader scale, and it'll filter it down. And we have gentlemen that are uh, essentially like it's like cold calling almost.
I did that. Yeah, I accidentally crossed.
It's all right. It's almost like cold calling, like reverse cold calling. You're calling us, and then we filter you to whatever the closest lodge is to your area. My lodge specifically has had at least 3 people through that process come through the doors. You come in, you find out whatever the meeting night is. For me, it's on Tuesdays. You come in, you don't have to wear a suit, you don't have to be, uppity or anything. Just come in. We're normal guys, you know. Come in. Most lodges will have dinner before they have a meeting. So come in, meet the guys, have some dinner. Some jurisdictions. When I say the term jurisdiction, every state in the United States is its own independent and sovereign jurisdiction. There is no Grand Lodge of the United States. Okay. So for California, it might be a little bit different than here in New Jersey, than New York, than Philadelphia, et cetera, et cetera. Come in, have dinner, have a drink or two if you're allowed to. Some states don't allow that. And just hang out. It's really all it is. And then if you're interested, we hand you a petition and you go through it, sign some papers, pay the first year's worth of dues, which depend on where you are. For me, it's $250 a year. Um, and yeah, we get you started.
What kind of time commitment does membership require, and how do you balance it with your personal life?
If you're just going to what we call Blue Lodge, which is the first 3 degrees, which is your home lodge, the one you first meet, it's normally either 2 weeks or 2 weeks a month. Or not, no, I'm sorry, that sounds wrong. 2 days out of the month that you meet at the lodge. My lodge has 2 meetings every second and fourth Tuesday. And on the first and third, it's just a casual night. We get together, we hang out kind of thing. For members that are going through the different degrees, there may be a little bit more of a time constraint because you do have to learn what we call a cipher. And that's really just a proficiency thing to show that you can advance to the next degree, whichever degree that is. From there, and this is actually goes back to the latest TikTok that I just made, where I say don't out Mason yourself. After receiving your third degree, you have a plethora of other what's called appendant bodies that you can join. The Shriners, the Scottish Rite, the York Rite. There's so many. You just have to realize that that's another night out from wherever you are. That's more money that you have to pay because each one of those bodies have dues. And if you become an officer in any of those, that's even more time that you have to make up. So it definitely comes down to a crunch if you're very involved.
Yeah, that are there specific community projects or charitable activities that Olive Branch Lodge number 16 is known for?
We have always supported the local Little League baseball team every year. That's like a common thing. The Boy Scouts, we constantly. We tried to get into the local food banks, but they're thankfully full. They have so much support here in Monmouth County that they actually don't need bodies there. They just want the money or any kinds of foods or anything like that. Every year we do Toys for Tots. Um, that's about the ones that I could think of off the top of my head. There are other things that we've done, like here and there. The one that always pops in my mind is there was a horrible accident about 10 minutes away from the lodge where a car got crushed, but
Wow.
the driver survived. The news talked about The other car, because it had babies and women and they were in critical condition, but they didn't talk about this driver. And we gave him $5,000 to $6,000 to help with his medical expenses, to try and get him home and whatnot. We also there was another gentleman where we built a wheelchair ramp for his house.
Yeah,
Not
that's
Masons, not
yeah,
Masons either. These are just people like
yeah, yeah.
out there.
It's incredible, man. I love that. Like, I think it's like, the Freemasons that I've met have been really amazing people, and I think like that it's a shame how you guys are defamed online.
It comes down to confirmation bias and cognitive dissonance. That you Another one that we're seeing is like a lot of the Greek three-letter organizations are getting the same kind of treatment.
True,
It,
yeah,
it's you know you just, as a member, you're just like, that's not real. Like, brush it
right, right,
off.
right. Freemasonry is said to bring together people from all walks of life. Have you experienced this diversity within your lodge?
Oh, absolutely, I have. Like I said before, I'm a garbage man. The secretary of my lodge is an architect. The treasurer of my lodge is a music lawyer who one of his first clients was the Backstreet Boys.
That's all. That's
Uh,
cool.
but you'd never know it because we don't show up going, look at me. That's not what we're about. You know, there's another guy that was a salesman who spent a lot of years in Russia doing bulk sales over there. So yes, we absolutely get all kinds of walks of life, from the clerk at your local grocery store all the way up to a local politician.
Can people from all religious backgrounds join? And what role does faith play in Freemasonry?
We the number There's two things that you have to have before you join. You have to have a faith. We don't care what. There is a heavy element of Judeo-Christian in Freemasonry, but if you are not that, don't take offense to it. I'm not. I'm a pagan technically. We have Jewish brothers, we have Christian brothers, we have Muslim brothers, we have if you've ever heard of the term Hermeticism or Hermetics, we just 2 years ago we just raised a brother who's a Hermeticist. So as long as you have that well-founded faith, you are absolutely able to come in. And of course, you have to be of age, which is normally 21.
What has been your most meaningful or memorable moment as a Freemason?
Wow. Probably doing things like this. Like you, and there was another gentleman that reached out to me a couple months ago who actually has a Masonic podcast. I don't know you guys. Like, I've never met you before. I never met that gentleman before either. But the two of you reached out to me because you saw what I did on my social medias. And for me, that just comes across as more of my imposter syndrome because I feel like I'm not reaching anyone, honestly. So to see someone like you, to see someone like that brother that reached out to me and ask, "Hey, would you mind talking with us about whatever it is?" I think that's awesome.
Yeah, most definitely. Like I saw your content and I was really like, just I really think like, I hate like online specifically how Masons are kind of like, saying like, they worship the devil, that they do all like, this crazy stuff, they control the world, like, James stalking me, and talking to you, you're just like a regular guy. I could see myself like, having a beer with you and, it's like you seem like, completely normal, very
I'm a Scotch, sir.
okay. Most sure. How do you
But
see
yeah,
your
but that's what it is. That's exactly what we want, and that's probably the message that I try to push the most. Especially like you had the conversation with brother JPG. We I've known him for hell 10 years now. Not physically, I've never physically met him, but he was one of the first Masonic creators that I connected with because he made clothing. He
okay.
didn't just make those silly videos that you saw. Like, his job is he makes t-shirts, specifically limited edition ties and carafes and things like that, and I was one of his customers. and our friendship just evolved from there because we were just similarly minded and we're meme lords. So that's where all that jumped off. He actually made a banner for my lodge, which you can probably see in one of my earlier TikTok videos.
Yeah, it's really cool. I really enjoyed my conversation with him. Like, really, really great guy. Uh, how do you see your role in the lodge evolving over the next 5 years?
5 years. Okay, so because I am a past master or past president of my lodge, the typical thing is that the new presidents are call upon us to, I wouldn't say mentor, but definitely come for advice because there's things that you don't learn about running an organization until you're in that seat. And I think that just goes across the whole gamut, no matter what fraternal or any kind of club that you belong to. Um, Hopefully, I'd like to get on what's called grand staff, which is the state level leadership. That way, I can influence how the Grand Lodge of New Jersey goes about and like put forth educational pieces. That's my thing. I want to put forth real educational, not the whole esoteric stuff. I want to put forth real life pieces. Again, going back to your conversation with brother JPG, like what would happen with Robert Wise.
Yeah,
This is the stuff that we're dealing with in real time. How do we combat this? How do we dissuade people online from thinking the way, like some of the questions that you had? And what are our references to combat that misinformation?
for sure. Is there something you do to support Freemasonry or your fellow Masons that others may not know about?
Aside from the TikTok stuff that I'm doing, I'm in the background. A lot of us on TikTok, I met a lot of brothers, hell, from across the world on TikTok, and we're constantly in contact, and not just Masonically. Um, we go to each other for all kinds of trouble. Recently, a brother just found out that he was having twins, and he didn't know what to do. So all of us dads got together and threw off the Mason title and got together as fathers and said, "Okay, this. I'm an autism dad, so meeting other fathers out there that are having their first experiences with a child with autism, I'm there to try and say, okay, this is how you kind of navigate it." So again, it goes back to that whole making each other better.
Man, that's beautiful, Andrew. I really appreciate you for taking the time. Anybody you want to shout out?
um, for your research, look up the guys on the Masonic Roundtable, a podcast that is dedicated to Masons. All four of those guys, Brother Joe, Brother John, Brother Jason, and Brother RJ, are amazing guys. I physically met them. If you want to hear from the Prince Hall side, reach out to Brother Damian Jack. He's also on TikTok.
Yeah, I
And
saw you had a video like where you put his link in the
oh,
bottom. I was checking
you
out his
got to talk to him.
page.
You got to talk to him.
Yeah,
It's funny because he's a 33rd degree Mason. So
right.
right there, you can talk about all this nonsense. And when you meet him and you talk to him, he comes off very professional. But then once you get to know him, he's unk. Like he's just that guy. And then another knowledge source would be Brother Josh Feliciano, who goes as the most worshipful grandmaster of TikTok.
Okay.
He's another joker, but he is a huge knowledge base. Definitely, if anyone has any questions specifically with Prince Hall Masonry, those are the two guys to reach out to.
Most definitely, Andrew. I appreciate you. You have a great one.
You too, man. Have a good one.